LinkedIn is the top business social network. And most times we say if you want to sell to businesses or you want to network with other business people, LinkedIn is the place to be. But the issue is that most people using LinkedIn have complaints that they either waste a lot of time posting on LinkedIn and don't get any clients, or they don't know what to do on LinkedIn and spend so much time there too. And so many things. So for a lot of people, LinkedIn doesn't work for them. And this episode would help you figure out how LinkedIn can work for you and your business. And in today's episode, we'll be talking with Nate Morse. So welcome to this show, Nate.
Thanks for
Okay,
having me.
so I think the first thing I would ask is why do most business owners struggle with LinkedIn?
I feel like that most business owners struggle with lead generation as a whole. And so it could be that they don't have the foundation figured out to make it so they're potent. So they're not going to work on anything for the most part. But a lot of it comes down to how do they use the platform. If you're just trying it for like a month or two, um, yeah, it's probably not enough time. You need quite a bit more time than that. But yeah, it could be they're doing the wrong things. So they could be doing, they could be making content, but the content isn't that good. They might just be using AI and making, not so good of posts. And then they blame the algorithm or the platform, or they might be doing outreach, which is my favorite, but they might just be using copy and pasted messages they found online. And they might just be using people they found from Sales Navigator. And the issue with that is that, and a lot of them pitch, a lot of people like pitch on LinkedIn, and you should be focusing more on the relationships because just like um, let's say that in a dating scenario someone walked up to you and first thing that they said was, hey, here's all the reasons that we should get married. Even if the offer is good, that's not actually going to make the right relationship that's going to turn into the right deal most of the
Interesting.
time.
Okay, so
So I think that's the biggest part is either, yeah, it's either like foundationally they don't have it, or like they're not giving it enough time, or they're essentially just doing the wrong things. But I get it. Like a lot of people just spam and pitch slap on there. And so, if that's what you see going on, then you go, okay, maybe that works. And then you try it and then it doesn't work. And then you think it doesn't work for you. No, you're
yeah,
just doing the wrong
because
stuff.
just there's you mentioned something about AI content, and I think that's one thing I've seen a lot on LinkedIn, both AI posts where you have the emojis and everything, AI comments where people try to engage with AI comments on people's posts for visibility. So what are your this thing?
Yep.
Yes.
Go
So
ahead.
what issues do you have with that?
The comments are definitely bad because they all like look the same in that, and you can like tell, right? So it makes it seem unintentional. And in terms of the content, what a lot of people do is they haven't even figured out how to make good content on their own, and then they try to have AI write it. But AI's best ability is actually to make it so that you can guide it, because it's like a baby. Like, it's only going to be as good as you teach it. And so if you're not good at making good content, it's most likely not going to be able to surpass that, you know? Because you're not going to know what's necessarily good or bad. You're not going to know what tweaks need to be made, and so they're offboarding it to something that doesn't necessarily have like the writing style that they should be writing in, or how they should be talking, or what they're talking about. So they're trying to take a shortcut. AI is better for people who have figured it out and now have something that they can use as an example of what to train
Okay.
it to do. But yeah, overall, yeah, the people that jump into it too quick, like that's not it. They're using it for the whole thing when it should be more of like a workflow component for helping like with ideas and kind of creating like initial rough drafts or something like that. And then yeah, the comments are bad. The
True.
comments are bad for sure.
Okay, so now I think now we've gotten that out of the way. Can you just give us introduce yourself, tell us about you, tell us what you do and how you got here?
Yeah. So my name is Nate Morse. For the last 8 years, I've been using LinkedIn to help high ticket businesses use authoritative outreach to get clients without needing to go viral or have a huge audience. And I started doing this when I was a intrapreneur. If you guys know what that is, if not, it's basically where a company hires you and you're an entrepreneur within their company. So I did that for about 6 years, and I was doing cold calling and door knocking, and so I was doing really good at that. But I needed a more scalable way, so I landed on LinkedIn because it has better targeting, and I get to give them a message that helps them know why I'm reaching out versus like Facebook, they just see, your face and they have to determine your intentions based on what you look like, which is not always going to be the best scenario. So that is why I landed on it. And then as I went along and went and started my own company and left the other one, um, LinkedIn was the thing that I was the best at. And then I had to decide, like, who do I want to help? And so that time was helping like smaller, medium-sized businesses, a lot of like coaches and consultants and other agencies and roles like that are high ticket and have a longer buyer's journey. So yeah, we essentially help them find people who are in the market and then spark the right conversations with them so that all they have to do is basically step in like when people are interested. And we want to do strategy with them. So we want to have like a collaborative strategy conversation. But yeah, that's what I do these days. That and jujitsu, and I have a dog, and yeah, I live in Nashville now.
Interesting. Really interesting. What type of dog is that?
So yeah, his name is Max. He's not. He's usually in here. But he's like a blue and white pit bull. So he's a mix of a Staffordshire Terrier
Mm.
and an American Bully. It's like a 70 pound, medium
Oh,
sized,
nice.
thick
Mine is a
boy.
Lhasa.
Yeah,
Mine
he's the
is
best dog
tiny,
ever
a
though.
tiny Lhasa. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned the.
Yep, I had a tiny dog before him.
Oh,
It was the
really?
girl in me.
What type was that?
It was a teddy bear
Oh,
Maltese, so it was 3 pounds fully grown. It was like the
pocket
sweetest
sized
dog
dog.
ever. Yep. Yeah, it would like jump off the bed and like break a leg and stuff like that. Like I don't think dogs should
True.
be.
Okay, so earlier you mentioned cold calls. You mentioned LinkedIn being better for you and more scalable for you than cold calls, which a lot of people who do outreach swear by. A lot of people swear by cold outreach, cold calls, cold emails. So why would you say LinkedIn is better and more scalable than that? Yes,
Than
and
like
cold
cold calling.
outreach.
So with cold calling, like half of your time is spent. Yeah, well, okay. So cold calling wise, about half of your time or more is spent just figuring out when you can call again because they might not be available right now and you're trying to find the time, or you're trying to like get to the person and try to get a way in, and then even once you get on the phone they don't know anything about you, right? Whereas with LinkedIn, we can reach out directly to them and they'll know stuff about us and why we're reaching out, so it's much more efficient in that regard. But also, you can have, with a lot of like tools and systems out there, you can have the majority of the outreach handled. So instead of me constantly calling, I can have something just sending messages, and that's much quicker than calling. Plus, they know stuff about me, and I can have the conversation that they can look back versus when you call, they almost need a reminder of what you said last time.
Interesting. Now, so for a person who is trying to do outreach on LinkedIn, what sort of mindset do they have to adopt or do they have to shift into to actually succeed at LinkedIn? I know you mentioned some things earlier, but
Yeah. So they're definitely going to need to focus on being more intentional. Like, don't hop in and go get an automation tool and start spamming the world. You want to be like really intentional with the people that you're reaching out to, and be very selective with who you're targeting. Because if you don't have the right list, the rest of it doesn't matter. And so a lot of people will just hook up a list from Sales Navigator, plug it into some tool, but like Sales Navigator doesn't always give you like what you asked for. And then yeah, that's what a lot of people do is they just they get a tool, they hook up a Sales Navigator list, they find some messages on Google or whatever, and then they just spam the world. Ideally you should actually be doing it. If you're just going to figure out on your own, you should do it manually first, like manually outreach to people, to the point where you have something that works, and then you can start looking into automation and stuff like that. But yeah, I like Sales Navigator is fine, but I wouldn't like just start going after the whole list. I would be intentional with like each person, make it so that everything is like optimized for each person. So yeah, it doesn't come off
Okay,
as
so
spam. That's probably the biggest portion. They would also, you know, just like any kind of outreach, if they haven't done it before, there's a lot of rejection that comes in play, and so they need to be ready for that. And they also need to have a testing mindset where you're testing. You're not just trying and seeing if it works. You're getting data to let you know if that worked or
okay,
not.
so
So don't just give it one shot and then say, "Oh, the platform doesn't work."
true. So now you
You might not be ready for entrepreneurship if you're that easy to get
true.
blown over.
So now you mentioned Sales Navigator and a lot of people just getting a list of Sales Navigator and attaching that to an automation. But the thing is that okay, so I mean, so what you're saying basically is for it to work out, when if you are using Sales Navigator, you have to personalize each outreach. So now the question I want to ask is Sales Navigator essential? Is it compulsory for success on LinkedIn? Yeah,
Can you say
it's
that again?
Sales Navigator. Is it essential or compulsory for success on LinkedIn?
You don't need it. You definitely need a type of premium though. So the cheaper version would be like you can get the career premium, and that's about $30 a month. Reason is that if you don't have any type of premium, you can't send out any more than like 10 connection requests, at least as it stands right now, that are personalized. And so yeah, you want to have some kind of premium version for it. Um, yeah, I mean, Sales Navigator is going to be better than the standard search for sure, but you want to go beyond that. You don't want to just grab a list and then
Hmm.
start going.
Okay, so I think at the beginning,
Like
yeah,
maybe in the beginning, maybe in the
yeah,
beginning.
because I think at the beginning, I mentioned you mentioned I mentioned your routine where you mentioned using just 30 minutes a day to do everything you need to do on LinkedIn. So can you break that down for us? How possible that is, and what someone trying to adopt your routine would be looking at doing every day?
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole training for this, so I won't be able to give you like the whole entire thing. But essentially, yeah, a portion of that is like how do you find people? And I don't use Sales Navigator as much when I'm showing people how they should find people. And then you have the messages that you're going to send. So you'll have these different structures of like, okay, you send a connection message, then once they accept, then they send the next message. And so those, once you have them down, like the structure, you can copy and paste like the framework and then personalize it per person. But I mean, we have clients where once they've gotten to that point where they can use other like systems and softwares out there, they're well under 20 minutes, but that's because they're responding to people who are interested, right? So if you get it to the point where it's working, then you can go use those tools and stuff, and then now you're only in there just responding when people are interested. So that part is much faster. But yeah, in terms of the training that I think you're referencing, yeah, it's a lot of the same stuff of like how do you grab the right people, how do you like what should you say to them, stuff like that. But yeah, I have a whole
Okay.
training on
So
that.
I think one important thing and one thing you mentioned when we're trying to show that LinkedIn is superior to cold calling is that when people click on your profile, they know who you are, they know who you serve, what you offer, and all that. And that comes through your profile, your LinkedIn profile. So what tips can you share for having an effective LinkedIn profile that would make people want to accept a connection request and deal with you?
Yeah, the two biggest things that I noticed that people um, kind of, I don't want to necessarily say mess up, but two areas of improvement for people when it comes to their profile. The two biggest ones that I noticed is the first one is they're not very clear about what they do. So people don't really understand
Hmm.
like how they can help you that much. It's not that clear because they'll use it more like a resume instead. So they'll be like, "Oh, I'm this person and this," but they're not very clear on like what they actually help people with. And then the other aspect is lack of clarity in the call to action. So, like if you notice on mine, you'll notice that I have multiple calls to actions throughout my profile. But a lot of people, if you land on theirs, let's say that their banner tells you what they do, but then there's nothing on there telling them what to do for the next step. And then their bio headline, there's nothing in there. So, like, you have to be telling people where to go to take the next step. And so, if you look at those two things, like one of them is, what's the value of this person? Why would I want to, connect with them in general? And then if I do like what they're doing, what should be the next step? And so, if you don't have both, it's not gonna work out very well, you
Yeah.
know?
Okay. So for some business owners, especially the ones I mentioned at the beginning, who might not be too clear on the value of LinkedIn to their business, who haven't really tried it or who have tried it and it hasn't worked for them, what kind of numbers, what kind of results
Mhm.
should they realistically be expecting if they follow your training, if they follow your framework?
Yeah, so I look at it, and even for those people, if they have only done it for like a little bit of time, like it is a skill just like anything else. So you need to like give it more of a chance. It's not just going to work right away just because you used it. Like if you're not good at doing outreach and you're not good at creating content or whatever avenue you choose on there, that's a variable in and of itself, which a lot of people fall into. They'll be going, they might do like like a couple weeks or whatever, and then they're already like discouraged, like, oh, this platform doesn't work. That mentality, you're never going to make it far in anything. I don't know any, like I do jiu-jitsu, I do a lot of lifting. I used to play guitar all the time. Like I don't know anything that you get good at that doesn't have the path of like pushing through to getting to the point where you're good. And so I don't understand why people think that it's different, but it's just a skill just like anything else. Um, so that's what was the question again? I was very focused on that
Yeah. What sort
because I
of
see it a
numbers
lot.
or results would they expect following your framework? Yeah.
Oh, numbers wise. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they would like if in terms of like following the framework, I don't want to say that this is like the expectations of everybody just because they follow like a few steps. Because even when we're helping clients, we're helping them at like a very like intimate way where we're working with them because I can't even make a course that does the same thing. I've tried, but they still need the skill to come in and help with the nuance for it to actually do really well. But numbers wise, I look at three different metrics in outreach. I look at the acceptance rate. That's the top of the funnel. How many people are going to get the rest of your conversation when you're reaching out? And then the reply rate. How many people are replying to the messages? And then the interest rate. How many people are replying with interest to your messages when you ask them if they want to hop on a call? Some people will pitch an offer right away, which I don't recommend at all. But so there, some resource, something like that. And so we've had clients that have gotten, 6-figure deals within their first week. And we have people who get, 80, 90% across the board on those numbers, which is even better than I get personally. So sometimes I get jealous of clients, but yeah, I mean, we're usually going for that like dream 100 list because you can focus or you can choose who you're going after. So you might as well get the best clients. But yeah, numbers wise, it's we'll have people get like 3 to 20 like positive replies a day. Sometimes it just depends on what their offer is, what the client is, how far we are into testing, things like
Okay.
that. But I mean, people will book like 5 to 10 calls a week, depending on like what numbers. So yeah, like client value, we've had people get 6-figure deals. Amount of responses, we've had people get like 5 to 20 responses a day, and then meetings booked, we've had like 5 to 10. It's
Wow.
probably a
Wow.
pretty good like higher middle of the group metric.
Nice. Now, I think the next thing I'll ask is content apart from outreach. One other way people get leads and business from LinkedIn is through their content. So now, basically, there's content which will get likes, comments, and engagement, and there's content which would get leads, get clients, get people interested in what you have to sell. So now, what type of post would you say would be most profitable will be the ones that will get you leads as against just getting you likes and comments.
Yeah. So I like to say like focus on the buyer's journey. Figure out like what internal questions are they do they have to answer throughout their buyer's journey, and that's the stuff that you should be making the content around. But also if you have like no if you don't have a very big audience on LinkedIn and you're making content and you're wondering why it's not taking off, yeah, obviously the content could probably be improved, but also LinkedIn's only going to show that to the people in your network. So if you don't have the right people, like if you haven't reached out and connected with the right people so that they're in your audience, they're not going to
Okay.
see it. So a lot of people need to do more outreach for their content to do well if they're in the beginning
Interesting.
stages. Yeah.
So now for the LinkedIn features, because we I know.
Otherwise, they're not going to see it. If you just had people on, if you just have people in your, if you just have people in your network from like previous jobs that you've worked at, because it used to be a resume before for you, and then now content isn't doing well, it's most likely because it's only going to the people that you had before who were, they met you in previous jobs and that content isn't relevant to them.
That's an interesting take. So now for LinkedIn features, what features does LinkedIn have that you see business owners not really taking advantage of?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one is probably the lives or not yeah, I mean lives are one, doing live videos, but really what I want to say there is the newsletters, because the newsletters, if people subscribe now, anytime you post they're going to get a notification on LinkedIn and they're going to get an email with your newsletter, so you don't have to rely on the algorithm anymore, and you can
Hmm.
post deeper content, right? You can give a bigger transformation in someone's beliefs and move them through the buyer's journey more the deeper the content is. So I think that newsletters are great for that. Another small feature is um, the ability to like schedule posts. Like Facebook doesn't really have that, but LinkedIn, like when people are making content, if you're gonna bulk like batch make your content, make it for a whole week all at once, like what I do, there you can schedule it right within LinkedIn, and I think a lot of people don't realize that's
Amazing.
there.
So I think that's the.
Those are probably the two main ones. I know that now they have there's short form video and stuff now. I haven't seen like the best results with that yet. But it is still the beginning, so it should be the wild west for the algorithm for that. So that should still be an opportunity for people if they like doing short form content.
Okay. So that's newsletter, the newsletter and the other one. So now, what's your take on? You mentioned LinkedIn automation tools a couple of times, and in the context you mentioned them being harmful, especially being used by new users just trying to do outreach. So, is there any part or any time where LinkedIn automation tools are useful or helpful or good to use?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the like I was saying before, like the automation shouldn't be the strategy. It shouldn't be like, hey, if we send this to enough people, then we'll eventually get interest. Automation should be once you've already dialed it in, and then you use automation to run the queue of what you would have already been sending.
Okay.
That should be how they think of being. Obviously, like if you're getting help from like us or somebody else, then we'll use it. But that's because we know what we're doing and we're managing it. But the issue is that yeah, a lot of people put it in, and then they just run through it when they should be making possibly a little bit more iterations because they're just starting out. They shouldn't be just like blasting it. Plus, they could get their account suspended for like a lot of people that start using automation, they
Yeah.
unintentionally like abuse it, and so they don't really know like what's the best way to ramp things up so that you don't get
Okay.
restricted.
So now, back to LinkedIn profiles. I think there's the part I was supposed to follow up on. When you see people building up their LinkedIn profiles, I think you mentioned the calls to actions and everything. What other mistake? What was the worst thing you can do on your LinkedIn profile that would make you not get results on LinkedIn? Yeah.
Oh, the worst thing you can do, Probably like not update it and not have a banner profile and not like just half ass it, probably is like not actually make it good.
Hmm.
That'd probably be the main thing. But yeah, I mean, if you, I mean, everything is connected. So if they didn't do a good job of showing what they do and how they're different, then the rest of it won't matter. Even if you have a good call to action on there, there's no reason someone's going to be compelled to take it.
Okay. So I think as we get to the end, if you look at people listening to this episode who want to succeed on LinkedIn, to win on LinkedIn, what are the three main actions you'd say they should take today at the end of this episode so they would get on track to succeeding to getting clients through LinkedIn?
Yeah. So I would look at what we've said in here for the profile aspect so that you can improve that. And if you need more help, you can go find me on LinkedIn or go to my website and I can give you a profile audit. Another option is I have a best-selling book on Amazon called the LinkedIn High Ticket Handbook, or you can go to my website natemorse.com and you can grab it for free on there. That goes over the profile as well. So that yeah, their first thing should definitely be the profile because they might have opportunities coming across their profile right now that they would be able to capture if their profile was good enough. So that would be the first thing. Second would be I'd be really focusing on looking into LinkedIn and seeing like who are the people that I really want as clients and start focusing on like those individual people and like commenting on their stuff, sending them connection requests, stuff like that, engaging with them. But I mean, I'd be really focusing on getting like a testing mentality of like different topics for posting, different structures for messaging. Beyond that, the fastest way to get ahead is definitely going to be like asking someone for help, like whether it's my team or someone else, like someone to help guide you along the way and take off some of the hard portions of the work and make it easier to like learn and see, okay, what should I be doing here, what should be tweaked here, because the nuance is really what makes or breaks it in a lot of things that I see. So if they're just going through courses and books or just following this and whatever, that's great, but the top 20% reaps the 80% of the rewards in the market. And so there is a big difference in those that are like really, really on top of it and investing and keeping up with things versus those that are just, I guess, trying to take the cheaper way and just use kind of what's out there because it's not made for them. They need like personalized help for it to do like really well, in my opinion. It just shortcuts the time. Like you can figure it out, but it took me a long time. It wasn't until I started getting help from other people in the online high ticket space that I actually started doing
Okay.
better.
So you mentioned your website, neatmouse.com. So if listeners want to connect with you or continue this conversation, is that the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, there's spots on there where they can connect with me. They can get a free profile audit, but also connect with me on LinkedIn. So then you can actually see like an example, and then you can message me about specific things and get my content and stuff on there.
Oh,
And I have a
yeah.
newsletter. So
Okay, so that
yeah,
your LinkedIn profile would be on the show notes and on the screen, also your website, and so they can get your newsletter from your LinkedIn profile, if I'm correct.
yeah, yeah. There's one. Yeah, they if they go to the one there, they can subscribe there, and then it'll ask them if they want to get like an email version that goes a little bit deeper as well. But yeah, they can go. They
Okay,
can go
so
to either of those.
that's perfect. So those will be in
That'll
the
work.
show notes. Those will be on the screen once this episode goes live. So thank you so much for coming on the Tech Your Business podcast. Thank you. And for the listeners, if you learned something new about LinkedIn today that you didn't know about before, you got some clarity over something that's been bugging you, share this episode with someone else who you think it will help. And till next week when we come with a brand new episode of the podcast, go work on your LinkedIn profile. Bye for now.